Beloved, I'm welcoming you to today's edition of the program, Moment of Hope. I'd like to assure you that it is indeed a time with God. God has planned so much for you. God has a mind to do great things for you. And I'm trusting that He will indeed remember you in this edition. He will indeed handle the matters of your life in this edition. Therefore, today we're going to be considering the subjects being productive. Being productive. When we are talking about this, we are referencing to God's demand and expectation about our lives, about us, that we are expected as God's children to be productive. You are expected in life to be productive. You are expected as a living entity to be productive. There is no excuse enough to establish reasons why you should not be productive. And that is why we're going to be referencing the Bible passage of John chapter 15 and verse 8, which says, "By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples." Come on. Jesus Christ is speaking to us here. He's speaking to us as God's children. He is enjoining us to know that in the midst of all your commitment, in the midst of all your services to the Lord, in the midst of all your efforts in doing God's work, in the midst of all your commitments in serving God in different dimensions, you will know that this is a demand and expectation that you will bear much fruit. It didn't say just fruit. If it has said fruit, then anyone can just decide on what he or she wants to do and bear fruit. Fruit is fruit. It says, "By this my Father is glorified." When you bear much fruit, when your life yields tangibly, when your life becomes greatly productive, when your life becomes more meaningful, more useful, when your life touches the life of others positively, it is an act of bearing much fruit. Bearing much fruit in the positive direction. Not just doing anything. Not just carrying out any agenda. It is their divine calling. What is God calling you to do? What has He assigned you to do? What are His assignments over your life? What is your destiny that you have neglected? When you commit to it, you bear fruits. And you know one thing about this fruit of a thing, it is something that blesses the life of many. Whoever is bearing fruits is always a blessing to someone, irrespective of what it is. To God is a demand. To you it might be, wow, this thing is inconsequential. Oh, what am I going to do with these things? I don't have the time and all that. Yeah, you must have the time. It is a call of God over you. It is a call of God, an expectation that you cannot just drive underneath the carpet. It is a demand. And I'd like to make you know that when you're on the verge of bearing forth fruit, it is not easy. No one can say, I just kicked in and I got it. If you want to make something vital out of your life, much productivity out of your life, you will indeed go the extra mile committing your efforts in such a way that it can even be an inconvenience to you. There is certain things you do which ordinarily you wouldn't do. There are things you will put in your efforts to do which ordinarily are not easy. There are things you will go the extra mile to do which you will not on your own accord decide to do it. But because there is an expectation on you, there is a demand from heaven over your life that you have to do it. You find out that you have no option. You don't have option. So irrespective of how you want to consider it, you want to do things that you are so free with. You want to do things that add so much easy for you to do because you feel that you don't want to suffer, you don't want to do things, go the hard way to give yourself inconveniences. Oh, I want to tell you, God is not on the business of considering those things that are so much easy for you to do. He knows you can do it. He knows you can do it. And that is why He has given that assignment to you. He knows you can do it. And can I tell you this? When you involve yourself in that thing, that assignment, when you get into that thing that God has ordained you to do, you find out that over time you begin to enjoy it. Those things you don't enjoy, you don't find easy, you are not happy doing, before you know, you start enjoying it. Because when you make up your mind to engage in that, then the Spirit of the Lord quickens you. And when the Spirit of the Lord quickens you, you find ease in doing it. You find joy in doing it. You find happiness in doing it. You find peace in doing it. Because the hand of God has rested on you. The power of God is the quickener to doing and fulfilling divine exploits. And when you are fulfilling divine exploits, when you are committed to fulfilling your mandate, you are blessing the lives of men. God's name is being glorified, irrespective of whatsoever it is that God has assigned in your hands to do. Commit towards that thing with all your heart. Commit towards that thing with all your efforts. Commit towards that thing with all your strength. Commit towards that thing with all your vision and all your understanding and all your wisdom and all the revelation that God is going to give you. Oh, I want to tell you that when you get that deeper, when you get that involved, you begin to see things move. You begin to see lives of people getting blessed. You begin to see that you are a light to someone. You begin to see that someone is being shifted. You begin to see that someone is getting joy. You begin to see that someone is being exalted. You begin to see that someone is being illuminated because you have committed to that thing. And that is what God is enjoying in us through the words of Jesus Christ, demanding that we should bear much fruit. You and me, whether we like it or not, said by this, God is glorified. By this, God is glorified. And what is the commitment of us? Our commitment is to see God's name being glorified. God's children as His creation. We are the handmaid of the Lord. And when we are committed to our bests, you realize that God is being glorified. And I also will tell you this. There's no way you can make any tangible impact in life. There's no way you can be a blessing to anybody. There's no way you can bear forth fruit without holding firm to God. If you neglect God, you neglect your place of assignment, because He is the one that has the idea that will direct you. He is the one that has the total guide that will give you headway, that will reveal and unfold the totality of what He has for you. If you play out and you decide to do your own thing, believing that you can succeed, and I like to tell you that you will end up a failure. You will end up losing out, because the demands of heaven is that you will follow according to direction. And how can you follow according to direction without heaven giving you a covering? Heaven fails to give you a covering. How will you? How can you obtain the covering of heaven if you decide to counter the will of God? If you decide to stand on your own, neglecting God Himself. If you decide to do your own thing, to move your own way, to live your life the way you please, not minding the will and desires of God over your life, not minding how you live, how can you make those impacts? So all we are doing about bearing forth fruit, all we are doing about being impactful in life, all we are doing about being productive in life, all we are doing about becoming fulfilled in life is to please God. And so if you don't know God, if you have not lived the life that pleases God, if you are not willing to live the life that will please God, to walk according to God's dictate, if you're not willing to live for God, if you're not willing to walk with Jesus in this journey, how then will you be able to please God? And that is why we are expected to lay aside every burden of limitation and hindrance, and whatsoever it is that is countering our productivity, that is going to be a hindrance and a problem to us on this journey. And I'd like you to also understand that irrespective of whatsoever might come your way as a challenge, it is not enough to be the challenge. You might be giving it as an excuse, but I have one challenge or the other, but it's not enough. Life is a platform where you experience all kinds of challenges. Life is a platform where one experiences all kinds of difficulties. So if we lay it as an excuse and we pile it up, turn it into a wall of hindrance and establish that, oh, I have enough excuse, I know what to say. Come on, you are going to be stopping yourself, not God, not the devil, you, because there is nothing enough to stop you except God himself. There is nothing enough to stop you. So that is why this word is coming to you in a time like this as a matter of urgency. Look into your life and begin to produce. Produce so much fruit. Produce so much results that men will see you and they will see God. Men will see you and the urge to glorify God will turn up in them. Men will see you and they will be happy that God has visited men in the form of their fellow man. Now I want you to know that right now I'm standing with you in faith. I'm believing that no power from the pit of hell can stop you. And I go on and declare with authority that you are unstoppable. I am declaring as God's servant that you will not fail. You will not miss out. You will not lose your place. You will not fall out. When you are on this journey, God will strengthen you on every side. God will empower you on every side. Every grace you need, receive it right now. Every might you need, receive it now. Be strengthened, be equipped, be fired up from that low limitation to a higher one, to a higher level where you will be able to expand into greatness. Move on by the power of God. Let the speed of God rest upon you. The speed of God's grace, let it be your portion. You will run and not be weary. You will be fulfilled. You will not be terminated halfway. Your life will not end halfway. You will live a life of impact to God's glory. In Jesus' name, amen.